Okay, so you want your own island. You've seen the aerial shots. Turquoise water, white sand, a villa on the edge of the world with no neighbors, no noise, and no one telling you what to do. Maybe you've even Googled private island for sale at 2 a.m. just to see how close you are. Here's the thing. You can actually buy a private island for less than a house in some American suburbs. There are islands in Canada going for $60,000. Panama has some under $300,000. And that fantasy you've been running in your head, where you rent it out, make a fortune, and write off the whole thing as a business, is exactly the pitch that gets people in trouble. But here's the strange part. The island that cost $180,000 to buy once cost over $10 million to turn into something. The island that rents for $155,000 a night is still, most likely, barely breaking even. And for every Richard Branson who turned his island into a global brand, there are dozens of buyers who quietly sold theirs at a loss a decade later, after the dream became a $500,000 a year maintenance problem. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what it costs to buy, develop, and run a private island, and why the purchase price is almost irrelevant. You'll understand the actual revenue model and why most islands that charge more per night than a Manhattan penthouse still struggle to turn a profit. You'll hear two real failure stories with names and dollar amounts, and you'll see what the math looks like at two very different scales. Because owning an island is one of the most seductive and complicated businesses on earth. And the gap between those two things is where most people lose everything. The private island market in 2025 ranges from $30,000 to over $200 million. That spread makes it sound accessible. It is not. The cheapest islands are cheap for a reason. They are undeveloped. No power, no water, no dock, no sewage. You are buying a piece of geology surrounded by salt water. Getting anything built on it requires specialized contractors, imported materials, and permits from jurisdictions that are protective of their coastlines and slow about everything else. The moment you decide to develop, the real number shows up. Infrastructure alone, including power systems, desalination, waste management, and a dock that can receive supply boats, runs between $5 million and $20 million. Luxury accommodation on top of that is another $10 million to $50 million. A helicopter or seaplane for guest transfers. Add $1.5 million to $5 million to buy it, plus ongoing operating costs. The island is usually the cheapest part of the equation. Branson bought Necker Island in 1979 for $180,000. He then spent $10 million transforming it in 1980s dollars. Marlon Brando bought Tetiaroa in French Polynesia in 1967 for $200,000. The resort built on it after his death, the Brando, opened in 2014, ran into the tens of millions to develop and charges between $3,500 and $4,500 per villa per night just to service that infrastructure. Those are the success stories. Here's what doesn't show up in the fantasy. The island costs money every single day, whether you're there or not, whether it's rented or not, whether the weather cooperated or not. Annual operating costs run from $84,000 at the low end, a small, simple island with a caretaker, to well over $500,000 for a developed property in a hurricane zone. A full-service luxury island resort can burn through $563,000 in fixed monthly costs before a single guest arrives. Insurance in the Caribbean runs 2 to 5% of property value annually. On a $10 million development, that's $200,000 to $500,000 a year, if you can get coverage at all. Some remote islands are effectively uninsurable. Maintenance in a tropical salt air environment is relentless. The ocean corrodes everything, vegetation reclaims cleared land within months, and storms do not schedule appointments. Experts put annual maintenance at 5 to 15% of total property value. Then there's staffing. A full-service island resort needs a general manager, chefs, housekeepers, boat captains, activity coordinators, and security. A lean 21-person staff runs approximately $1.6 million annually in payroll. You cannot deliver a 5-star experience with 5 people. Every single item consumed on the island, food, fuel, linens, replacement parts, alcohol, gets shipped or flown in at 2 to 3 times the mainland price. A remote Pacific island can spend $500,000 a year on logistics alone. The island does not care if you're profitable. The costs run regardless. So, how does this thing pay? The answer, for every successful private island, is the same. Sell scarcity at a price high enough that even imperfect occupancy covers costs. The product is not the beach. It is the fact that no one else is there. Absolute privacy. No other guests, no paparazzi, no noise. That is what ultra-wealthy buyers are actually paying for. And that market is specific, deep, and surprisingly price-insensitive. The pricing range is extraordinary. A mid-tier Caribbean island rental does $5,000 to $15,000 per week. A developed luxury property charges $20,000 to $150,000 per night for an exclusive buyout. Banwa Private Island in the Philippines charges $100,000 per night. Necker Island charges $154,958 per night for up to 48 guests. Cali Vinny in the Caribbean charges $140,000 per night. But context matters. At $154,000 per night on a 7-night minimum booking, Necker generates over $1 million per stay. The problem is occupancy. Necker now offers individual room bookings from $5,400 per night to fill the calendar gaps, a concession that would have seemed unthinkable in the island's early years, and a signal of how hard full occupancy is to achieve. The smartest operators do not just sell nightly rentals. They sell weddings, corporate retreats, wellness retreats, yacht charters, and conservation experiences. The Brando on Tetiaroa is a masterclass. Brando's original eco-vision became the brand. The island runs on near total renewable energy, operates a research station, and commands a premium because you are not just buying a holiday. You are buying a statement. Now the failures, 2 of them, both instructive. The first, Four Seasons Resort Exuma at Emerald Bay. In 2003, Four Seasons opened a $300 million property of 500 acres on Great Exuma in the Bahamas. Major international brand, beautiful location, premium market. It failed in 4 years. Four Seasons officially cited difficulty attracting skilled workers from Nassau to relocate to the island. The real problem was a cascade of operational failures no one had properly modeled, the cost of supplying a remote location, the lack of airlift infrastructure into Great Exuma, and a service consistency problem that undercut everything the Four Seasons brand stands for. The resort closed in 2007, went into receivership, and sold to Sandals in 2009, which then also acknowledged underestimating the operating costs. A $300 million asset sold in distress because nobody had properly costed what running a 5-star hotel in the middle of nowhere actually requires. The second, Sea Island Company in Georgia, an 80-year-old family-owned private island resort with assets of $603 million. The kind of place that survived for generations on discretion and old money. Then the family funded a major expansion, hundreds of millions in renovations, intending to repay the loans by selling luxury residential real estate on the island. The 2008 crash obliterated that plan. By the end of 2009, they had $825 million in liabilities against $603 million in assets. Chapter 11. An institution that survived decades of hurricanes was brought down by a residential real estate market it had no control over. Both cases share the same structural failure, an underestimation of what everything costs when something goes wrong at once. On a remote island, when something goes wrong, it goes expensively wrong. And that's before you factor in weather. Necker Island was hit by lightning in 2011, and the Great House burned down. Then Hurricane Irma in 2017 swept away buildings and snapped boats in half. Branson rebuilt both times. Not everyone can. Rebuilding after a major hurricane means importing every material by boat or plane, paying contractors a remote location premium, and losing months of revenue while costs keep running. Hurricane insurance in the Caribbean, when you can get it, costs 2 to 5% of insured value annually. Climate change makes the calculus worse every year. 2 real scenarios with actual numbers. Scenario 1. Entry level. You buy a 5-acre undeveloped island in Belize for $250,000. You spend $800,000 building a 3-bedroom lodge with solar power, rainwater collection, and a small dock. Total outlay $1.1 million. Annual fixed costs, including caretaker, insurance, maintenance, and supply runs, run $116,000 a year. In a good year, you book 20 weeks at $5,000 per week, $100,000 gross. You are losing $16,000 a year before debt service. In a bad year, you lose $66,000. This is not a business. It is an expensive lifestyle asset that offsets some of its cost. Most owners at this level know that going in. The ones who do not are usually surprised within 3 years. Scenario 2. Full-scale resort. You acquire a 30-acre developed Caribbean island for $8 million. You spend another $15 million upgrading it to 5-star standard, with new villas, a spa, dock improvements, and a helicopter. Total, $23 million. Annual operating costs, $2 million. You charge $30,000 per night with a 3-night minimum. At 50% occupancy, you're generating $5.5 million in gross revenue. Strip out operating costs, $3.5 million. Debt service on $23 million takes another $1.5 to $2 million. You're left with roughly $1.5 to $2 million in free cash flow, a 7 to 9% annual return. Assuming nothing goes wrong, no hurricanes, no pandemic. When Banwa Private Island cut its rates from $100,000 to $45,000 during COVID, that was not strategy, that was survival. The math can work. But it requires scale, the right market, genuine operational expertise, and the reserves to absorb the catastrophes that are not a matter of if, only when. Here's what every private island comes down to. You're buying a business that operates in one of the most hostile environments on Earth and betting that enough ultra-wealthy people will pay extraordinary sums, often enough, to cover costs that run whether the island is full or empty. The people who make it work are not dreamers. They are operators. They understand that the island does not generate revenue. The brand, the infrastructure, and the relationships do. The island is just the address. Branson did not buy Necker to make money. He bought it to impress a woman. He turned it into a business because it was the only way he could afford to keep it. The fantasy is free. Everything else is not.